Hey everybody, Matt from Mats here to show you how we mount a book cut. Book cuts are a little bit different. They're smaller. They are, on paper or on a book plate like this one is. And we want to be a little bit more careful with how we mount them. We did a video on mounting an 11 by 14 photo using linen tape, artist tape, and a T-hinge. For the book cuts, for CDs, things like that, we want to use photo corners. You can get photo corners for these were $1.29 for 250 of them, so they're super cheap. You can get them at Walmart, you can get them at Michael's, you can get them anywhere, any kind of hobby store. But they are great because no adhesive will touch your signature or the paper. It will minimize damage. It will actually, it'll remove damage, but it'll minimize anything touching the autograph or the paper surrounding it. Now with this, with cuts, people tend to just cut it out and want to make sure that it shows the signature. Something like this with the book plates, I try and keep as much as possible for any kind of signed booklet. It's not always the case where it's easy, especially if you have a smaller mat. Some of the 8x10 mats, if you try and keep this entire book plate, it just won't work. And it also depends on the placement. This particular mat is Black Swan. It's for my buddy Zach. And as you can see, the paper itself is just going to be too big. The book plate runs to the bottom of the page, so we're going to have to cut off some of the bottom of the book plate. Also, I've been asked, why don't we crop this all the way down to the signature? And again, it's, I average out the size of the cut based on all the books that are available at the time. These book plates are a little bit smaller than the full page signature was. I think I have one somewhere, but also it just gives a little bit more authenticity to the page. If you ever want to get it authenticated, they'll be able to see that, it comes from the book. So I keep it that way. But I've already measured out where I want to do my cuts. Again, I want to keep as much of the book plate intact as possible. It's just not always doable. I'm also not wearing gloves this time only because it is paper, not a glossy photo. So I don't have to worry about fingerprints or messing anything up. So we're going to cut this down based on my initial cut marks. It's very handy to have this mat here because I can make straight cuts without issue. I've already cut it out of the book. If you need me to show you how to cut it out of the book, we might want to revisit doing anything because cutting it out of the book is pretty straightforward. We just want to make sure that we leave enough space around the entire item so that we can mat it without issue. We can mat it without running into a situation where the edge is too close to the opening, or you can even see the photo corners. We don't want to see any of that. So here we go. Cut it out. I cut it down. Made it as square as possible. Again, because we're going to mat it, it doesn't really matter, but we want it to be neat, especially again because it's not mine. And what we're going to need, just like last time, is a backer board, the mat, some linen tape, artist tape, double-sided tape, and some scissors. So here I have the backer board. This one is not cut down to size. This is a 12 by 18 sheet, I think, on an 11 by 14 mat. So you'll be able to see how I cut these down as well. Again, it's super simple, but I'm gonna line these up to make the initial hinge, just like last time. This will help make sure that everything stays straight. Make sure everything's lined up. We're going to open it up. Rough place. You know what I didn't do? Let's cut this part out. Back really quick to make sure that there's no overhang. This will also make sure the double-sided tape doesn't touch the cut to then you run into all sorts of problems. So we rough place this. We don't want any of the top fables showing if we can avoid it. And we want to keep everything as equal on each side as possible. Just looks better that way. Her signature is actually running off the edge, so we can cheat a little to the left to make sure that the signature is centered. That looks pretty good. I'm gonna open it up and take our photo corners. Again, these are super cheap. These are acid free, available pretty much anywhere, scrapbooking stores, things like that. So we're gonna take 4. You can even cheat with these and just use 2, but again, this is not for me, it's for somebody else, so I'm going to make sure that it is done properly. Place 1 at each corner, and then I'm going to make sure that it is lined up properly. Make any adjustments if needed. Looks pretty good. So we'll add on these last 2 to the other corners. This is super quick, super easy. And again, no adhesive is touching this piece of paper. So if you ever want to take it out, put it into something else, you don't have to worry about tape or anything like that getting in the way. So it looks good. Everything looks like it's lined up straight. We're going to use a double-sided tape now to seal it all up. Now, a lot of times when the paper, the backer board, is larger than the mat, you can't always see, you know, we can do the bottom, we can do the side, and we can do the top. But this side, I'm going to be running into a little bit of an issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that side first. I'm going to measure it out on the opposite side just to see about how much tape I need. I'm going to bring it all the way to the edge and put it as close to the signature as possible without touching it. This will make sure that I get the edge and then I'm not touching the signature. Now, like I mentioned last time, we have all this dead space. And with all this dead space, I mean, what we can do is just put a stripe across here, a stripe up here. It just helps seal the mat itself. Also, this time what I'm going to do is run my tape across the inside of the mat, only because I don't want to waste tape if I don't put enough or put too much. I can end up having to reseal it. I'm going to do the same on the bottom. And then on the inside, put it on the mat. Doesn't matter if you put it on the mat or if you put it on the backer board. It's just, for me, preference on time. I'm going to put this straight across to fill up some of that dead space. Put another one this way. Again, this helps seal everything up. Just be mindful if you do this and you ever want to take it out of the mat, it's just a little bit more tape you have to wrestle with. So try and keep it consistent so you know whether or not you are taping the insides or not. So the tape is down. I'm going to use my little tool because it's easier to get the backer off. Your fingernails will work just fine, but I bite my nails, so this tends to be easier. So I'm just going to take all the backing off. Helps to have a garbage bucket handy, so you don't just throw it on the ground like I tend to do, then have to clean it up later. Once all of the backer tape is off, down. Press all the corners. And you can see here how there is some excess tape. If I had put it on the inside of the mat, it would have laid right over their signature, and that's never good. So we're just going to cut this off. Now, all you got to do to cut this off, follow the line of the mat. I try and press it up against the inside of the mat without putting it on an angle. Sometimes if you put it on an angle, it can cut underneath. Want to do steady, even pressure so it doesn't slip and cut the mat. That's happened more than once to me as well. Just give it some firm pressure on the mat. And we are all set. As always, let me know if you have any questions.